this is, very dear to my heart, the art of storytelling. It's something that is a lost art because we're so busy telling stories with our thumbs. It's something that I've been on roughly about 70 college campuses doing, because it's one of the most difficult questions young adults get when they graduate college. Tell me about yourself. And they typically go to a default of regurgitating their resume. And, most of the people that are doing the interviewing can typically read. So they don't need young adults to regurgitate their resume. And it's challenging when people say, tell me about yourself. It's sometimes just as challenging when people ask you, what do you do for a living? And you're concerned that you don't want to just go to the default mechanism and say, hey, I'm a real estate agent, I'm a real estate broker. Because, there are a few of us that exist. I don't know the exact numbers. For example, I know some New Jersey peeps on the phone. I think it's like 5,000 maybe. I might be overestimating in Hudson County alone, but we know there's 10,000 on the island of Manhattan, 25,000 in New York City. So it's insane. So we're going to cover the art of storytelling, some highlights here, and the goals for today are real simple. I want you to take away one or two things that you could begin implementing into your conversation. That was me being a little sarcastic here, because every conversation truly is a story. And I want you to think of it like that, and don't take your conversations for granted. Every conversation should be a story that leaves a memorable, lasting impression about you, about your capabilities. So let's not get overwhelmed. I'm gonna give you about 10 or 11 key points today. You might walk away and go, holy shit, this is a lot. Where do I start? But we're gonna just chunk this off into small, manageable pieces. And I promise you, even making one or two small adjustments to how you present are going to make a remarkable difference in you remaining top of mind with your clientele, right? Which is one of the biggest things we work on. We always get pissed off when someone says, I can't believe you bought with someone else. I can't believe you listed with somebody else. I can't believe your best friend or your sister bought with somebody else. You know what I do for a living. Well, this is not their fault. You just never told them a memorable, I am sorry, people. This is my mother's pharmacy. I'm so glad we got that on the record. Let me shut that off. So let's not get overwhelmed. Let's break this down into small, manageable pieces, and let's get started. And I want to address, there's many stories you tell, but I really want to address this question. It's simple and it's common. But you often make it way too general for the people that you're speaking with to remember what you do or to be excited about what you do. So it's real important when you answer this question, your audience, your situation, even who their potential disc profile is, right? Sometimes you'll get a chance to have a 15 or 20-minute conversation, so you have multiple stories to tell. Sometimes it's going to be more the elevator pitch, right? That 30 or 60 seconds. So really know who you're speaking to, know your situation. And if you're fortunate enough to know who you're speaking to, if they're a high driver and they just want the bottom line, or they're the INS on the disc profile that is anxious to share, just know who you're speaking to, and please be adaptable. So these are examples. I thought about, there's 1,000 more examples about how you can answer this question about what you do for a living. And hopefully your answer is simply not, I'm a real estate agent, and then I kind of made it a little bit, there's a little typo. Oh, no, that's not a typo. It says amass. That's actually a word. So I said then below that, I hear some of you say I'm a real estate advisor. Sometimes you say I'm a real estate advisor specializing in something. And I know sometimes you're afraid to say you're specializing in something, not to eliminate other areas that you could work or not work. I think you should never be concerned about saying you specialize in something, because that is extremely memorable and sticky. And you can't tell me that there's not enough Brooklyn townhouses for you to make millions of dollars a year selling real estate. So I'm a big fan of specializing in something. And then, I gave an example, a couple more examples here. We could read them. I help people leverage real estate to amass wealth. Now, some of you might go, ooh, this is a little fancy. Don't forget, you don't have to less is typically more. You know, it's okay to elicit a response from somebody that says, tell me more. So you can be a little bit vague. You can be a little bit mysterious in how you answer this question. You know, I help people build wealth through real estate. Now, some people may look at you cross-eyed and be like, what? Like, what do you do, Kim? And that's okay, because then they're giving you permission to tell a longer story. So you're not here to be arrogant or cocky, but there are ways to say what you do for a living that will create more of an intrigue where people will say, tell me more. You know, I consult and advise buyers and sellers on their real estate decisions. And then I even took it one step further in saying I'm a residential real estate advisor in New York City. I ensure my sellers maximize the equity in their real estate holdings while making sure the buyers I represent make the right investment decisions for themselves and their families. And you can even, and some of you might say that's a lot, but you could almost have fun with that and say, hey, I know that's a lot, but I take my job very seriously, blah, 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 blah. And that is going to be very memorable. And for those of you that have heard me talk before about telling a story, every story you ever tell shouldn't say every, whenever you get the opportunity to, your story should include a for example. And we could discuss that a little bit. Because once again, right, you could say that you help sellers maximize their equity. You could tell someone that your buyers that you represent make the right investment decisions. But I'm sure all of you have at least one story to tell to really bring to life the value of the services that you provide, where people go, ooh, really? I need that, right? You're solving a problem. I need that. That's what you want them to say after they speak with you, right? I need her, I need him, because you're solving a problem. I want you to think about that a lot, okay? So let's get into the meat. The meat of this is, you know, I was gonna try to do a top 10 here, but I had to add number 11. And I'm happy to share particularly this slide with everybody that's listening today. But it's really important that your story addresses or answers most of these, to be quite frank. You know, people say to me all the time, where do I start? And the first thing I always say, and for those of you that I've worked with in the office regarding creating video content, a beginning, middle, and an end, right? And to me, the middle, as you know, is the least important, right? You want to set it up at the beginning, and you want to end on a note that is sticky and memorable. Okay, so it's really important that you chunk your stories down into a beginning, middle, and an end. And to me, the middle is kind of a throwaway. Okay, so start there. And then the question you have to ask yourself is, why are you telling them this story? What do you want them to remember? And that leads directly into 3, you know, about eliciting emotion. You know, I've had people tell me in the past when I used to do a ton of events, you know, I say, what did you like most? And they go, wow, I just walked away really energetic. And, you know, that answer was disappointing to me, because I'm obsessed with saying, at least give me one thing that you learned today, right? That you could begin implementing. So I know your time spent today was valuable. And, you know, there are people would say to me, well, because I never want to be known as a motivational speaker, right? Because I don't even know what that means. I want you to be able to walk away just with something you could implement today. Something tangible. But I got to tell you, eliciting emotion is so important. And unless you elicit the right emotion, your content means 0. You know, we're all so obsessed about every sentence and every word. People don't remember every sentence or every word. People don't remember those details. It's how we were obsessed when we were kids about that one pimple on the face, right? Like, we would not go to school with that one pimple. And that one pimple to us was the Grand Canyon. That one pimple to somebody else, they didn't even recognize it. So it's really important that you get out of your own head. Because a lot of times too, we're obsessed with what we say and the content, and we're thinking, and you know, you're in your head, and you're losing that connectivity with the other person. So that's why I'll say at the end, you'll see on the next slide, you know, unless you practice, and you practice out loud, to see what you look like, to see the type of energy you convey, whether it's a facial expression, whatever that may be. It is so important that you elicit the right emotions that move people to a response. Okay? So I please, no matter what, emotion, emotion, emotion. Next, number 4 and 5. You know, we talk about here, what do you want your audience to do upon hearing your story? And we talk about having your audience, even as raving fans, you know, that they need to be able to convey to somebody else what you do, right? These are your salespeople. These are your soldiers on the street saying, oh my God, you know, Kim does this. You have to use her for this. She will protect your equity. She will ensure that you get this, right? Kim is there to solve problems and protect her clients. So it's really important that, you know, on some of these stories, there is a call to action. So what do you want them to do? And is your story easily shareable? And there's another quick tip here that we have to realize that oftentimes the people that we're speaking to really don't know our business. So you gotta be careful about using real estate jargon that just doesn't connect with them. So it's real important, as I get out of the sun here, I don't want to say dumb it down, because obviously you'll know who you're speaking to, but it's really important that you make your story easily shareable. Don't overcomplicate it. Less is always more. And if you could figure out a way to say, here's the problem I'm solving, and that's oftentimes a good way of putting that in a story. For example, right? I was able to help this person do this. You solved a problem for them, whether it was speed, whether it was a price point, whether it was find a very, very specific type of property that fit their very, very specific needs, you know, or worked within a specific budget. You solve problems, and that's what your stories need to convey. Here, number 6, tone, pace, inflection, emphasis on what. Just like this quiet pause, this 5 seconds of silence, which is often most uncomfortable, right? We talk about the dating silence. A little pause in your story goes a long way of attracting them back and gaining their attention. So it's important that whether your story is 30 seconds or 5 minutes, that you're not just like this for 5 minutes. And that's one of my biggest challenges personally, is being able to pause, changing your pace and your inflection of how you present. Now, you could only do this well, watching time here, try and get this done in the next 3 or 4 minutes. Kimmy, are you with me? Uh-oh.
I am here, just couldn't unmute. I'm here.
I'm assuming we're not getting flooded with questions, right? So I can
You're
keep
good
going?
on the questions so far. You can keep flowing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You got me panicked. I'm like, oh my God, I've been talking to myself the past 18 minutes.
You are here. We are recording.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Like I said, I'm not looking at the screen. I'm just looking at my slides. It's very lonely. You know, the inflection of how you speak, you'll only be good at number 6 if you memorize your story. And memorize doesn't mean I'm going to ask you to regurgitate your story word for word, you know, but it allows you to ad lib. I often, you know, why do quarterbacks, you know, or anybody or point guards, know the playbook inside and out? If you know it inside and out, when you need to improvise, you won't need to think. If you know your script and know your story, it'll be much easier for you to have some fun, right? Change your pace and your inflection. So you're not thinking about what's the next thing I have to say. That's why you have to practice this, and practice it out loud, right? Not internally. Practice it as you would be saying it to a friend at a bar, at a cocktail party, in front of a room, making a presentation. Okay, every good story includes an example. You've heard me say this over and over again. I can't say it enough. Stories are memorable. The story about a buyer or seller or something that you've overcome, or a bidding war that you've won, or the fight that you have with the seller about a price point, and here's the best way that you positioned the property to maximize days on market. people really appreciate real life examples. It adds to your credibility. And it's definitely something that is memorable and transferable because people love sharing stories. Specific versus general, I can't even stress this enough. We have, as salespeople as a whole, salespeople love making broad, sweeping comments, and that discredits us. So it's really important you get as specific as possible. That will establish your expertise. Number 9, boy, you don't need to answer every question or solve every problem. You can be vague. Some of you may feel some of the ways I described, whether that was slide 2 or 3, the way I answered to be a little bit snarky. I did this class many years ago and someone said to me, I said, great, what's your answer? And they said, when someone asks you what you do for a living, they go, I own a real estate company. Now, I looked at him and I was like, ooh, you don't own a real estate company. Well, he said, I'm an LLC. I am a company. Sure, I'm under an umbrella of another company. Now, of course, there were people in the room that were like, that was, cocky, not credible. He was lying. There were some people in the room that were like, that's definitely going to elicit a question or a response. So, there's no right or wrong here. You want to engage people. You want people to say, tell me more. You don't need to tell your whole life story to make it a compelling one. And then 10 and 11, paint a vision of what it would be like working together. That's where, for example, goes in a long way. So obviously, if you have the luxury of knowing that you're speaking, whether it's in a group of 3 people and none of them own, right? Then you're hopefully going to tell this compelling, first-time home buyer story that you have, right? You need 2 or 3 or 4 stories in your pocket about what you do for a living. Because it's not just being a real estate agent, right? If you have 3 renters in the room, I'm a real estate agent that has helped X renters become buyers, and here's the benefit. Let me tell you an example of how someone's really benefited by doing that, and it really hasn't cost them more than renting after their tax deductibility. Oh, really? Tell me more. There's your story. There's your for example. So you got to paint a vision of what it would be like working together. And the last thing I'll say is, if only one thing. What is the one thing that you want this person standing on a soapbox and sharing with their audience? I can't say it enough. We work so hard. And you literally, if you do this right and you tell the right stories that are compelling to move people, you will have an unpaid sales force. We talk about raving fans. I mean, you are going to have, I remember telling at a continuing ed class, this has got to be like 15, 16 years ago, 17 years ago. And that's when my mortgage life, and I was doing I think I might have been doing some disc training, and there was like 120 people in the room. And I even remember who this was. It was Stephanie Morell, if anybody knows that name. She was at City Habitats in Corcoran forever. And I gave an example of, disc personality styles and how high S's, who are consultants, who really care about the people they work with, who are all about relationships, will carry your card around in their wallet. They will be your raving fan because they care about you. And all of a sudden, out of the second row, Stephanie's like, oh my God, Eric, I have your card in my wallet. That's obviously when people carried around business cards. And there were really no, smartphones. So it's how are you going to tell a story so you have raving fans and an unpaid, motivated sales force to continue filling your pipeline with qualified referrals. So that is that. I want to end on this slide and spend maybe 5 minutes doing some Q&A here. None of this matters unless you practice it out loud and memorize your story. You have to memorize it. I know a lot of you also in different types of potential coaching, and you hear script practice, and you're like, oh, scripts, unauthentic. It's this. Scripts, once again, doesn't mean regurgitate word for word. But memorizing your stories allows you to relax when you're talking to somebody. And if you could relax and stop thinking internally, you could focus, you know, stay present, focus outwardly, and then once again here, being able to pivot when necessary. And this is where DISC really comes into play. That paying attention to the questions they ask you, the body movement, the body. Hey, you know, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And particularly if you're in front of somebody, right? Very different. These are very different stories, telling it on the phone, telling a story via text, or sharing it on social media than if you are face-to-face. You know, if you're fortunate enough to be face-to-face, there are other things you could take into account in sizing up the situation. So, you know, but the most important thing is if you don't know your story and you're not comfortable with it and really know it, you can stay present. And then you can adapt and pivot when necessary. And this is critical to you maximizing your connection with others. So that is the end of the slide presentation. I'm going to figure out a way to get back to you guys because I have no idea where I am or what he did here. But I can't get back. I don't want to get this, I don't want to disconnect by accident. Kim.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question we have. Where do you think the example has the most impact? In the beginning, the middle, or the end of the story you're telling?
Oh, definitely at the end.
The end.
Definitely at the end. It's that is, you know, you're going to emphasize an example of you know, working with a seller. And then you're going to give a for example. You know, this is how, and that for example is going to show the other person the benefit of working with you. So the for example must be a story that shows the value that you provide to anybody that has decided to hire you and retain your services. And I say retain your services because I always like to try and reinforce to people, you don't make any money, right? Unless this deal closes. I don't think our clients understand the amount of commitment and time, which equals a small fortune of money that each of us and each of you invest in your clients without any guarantee that you're getting paid. So, you know, there are, I think it's a really important point to remember. Go, Kim.
Sorry, what's your approach when you don't have a clear DISC reading on someone?
Be authentic. You know, I always tell people you can't be everything to everybody. So I think when you don't know who you're speaking to, I think people really appreciate authenticity. And, you know, one of my lines I've said forever and ever and ever, you know, if you don't turn some people off, you're not being authentic, right? I mean, I don't mean intentionally be obnoxious. I don't mean be unprofessional, but you're not going to be everything to everyone. So the more authentic you can be, I'd much rather have 10, 15, 20% raving fans and 80% of people that go, I'd rather work with somebody else. I'd much rather have that than have, you know, 90% of the people say, oh, I like him. I don't, you know, like is not good enough in strengthening your bond and your relationship with others. You know, I want people, you know, to say, oh no, I don't do anything. I don't purchase a property without calling Eric first. Like that's the type of commitment I want from people because they know that's the commitment they're going to get from me. So you can't be everything to everybody. Just simply be authentic. Don't overthink it. You know, if your attitude is, oh my God, I don't want to, you know, offend's the wrong word, but I'll say it anyway. But it's not the right word. You know, I don't want to offend somebody. If you're being authentic and truthful and professional and they get offended, it's not on you, it's on them, right? I mean, they could simply be having a bad moment. It very well may have nothing to do with you.
All right, our final question is when do you, at what time is it important to take a pause? And do you pause in the middle of a sentence or afterwards for effect?
I will typically pause two main spots. Number one, if I feel like I'm losing the room, just because as people on this call that know me, I'm loud. which means I'm actually making my family insane right now because we're stuck in the same house. So, pauses matter more dependent upon who's presenting. So I will pause typically at the end of what I consider to be a very impactful sentence, because I want it to sink in. And you'd be surprised if you could hold that pause 3 to 5 seconds, which feels like an eternity, you will more often than not elicit a response, because people will feel compelled to respond. It's just, there's that joke, whoever talks first loses. This is not a negotiation class, but if you could be comfortable in that 3 to 5 second pause, it will really make what you had just said that much more impactful and powerful.
Awesome. That's it on the questions on our end. So
wow, we're at 9:31. Is this amazing?
Yes.
I want some kudos, or I want kudos. I don't know if we do kudos on the meetings. I want kudos for doing these slides last night, Kim, from you.
Look, you're getting kudos. They're flooding in. You're getting thank yous and kudos in the chat.
And I can't see anything. Oh my God.
Ask and you shall receive.
Anyway, everyone have an amazing day. If you have specific questions about a story, if you want to record it and send it to me, I love this shit. So please use me as a sounding board to craft your stories. It's something I think is so impactful and so important, and you've got to practice. And I am looking forward to all of you creating amazing stories and having a wonderful Thursday.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Kim.